You're watching The Legal Breakdown. So we are at day one of Donald Trump's first criminal trial in New York. We're going to have two Legal Breakdown episodes today. The first is to discuss a major update on the prospect of Trump being jailed for violating his gag order. That's right now. And the next episode today is going to cover some major news on the rest of day one, including some surprise jury updates. So for the viewers, if you want to follow along with that episode and more, please subscribe because we'll be doing exhaustive coverage of this entire trial. The link is right here on the screen, or you can just hit the subscribe button down below. And of course, you can also find the link to Glenn's channel in the post description of this video too. So Glenn, Judge Merchan is now considering holding Trump in contempt for violating his gag order, and we've covered those violations prior to this. Clearly, Donald Trump didn't anticipate this. Walk us through what contempt hearings would look like.
Yeah, Brian, it's really hard to believe that Donald Trump will not end up in a jail cell for contempt if Judge Merchan applies the law to him the way it would be applied to anybody else. So here's what's going on. Judge Merchan has put a gag order in place prohibiting Donald Trump from talking about, among other things, the witnesses and the judge's own family members. And of course, Donald Trump has violated that gag order, that prohibition, several times over in the run-up to the trial. So here's what happened today. The prosecutor said, Judge, we want a hearing. We want you to issue a show cause hearing. We've talked about those previously, to have Donald Trump convince you that he didn't violate the gag order and or he should not be punished if he did. So the only quibble I have right now with the way Judge Merchan is handling this issue is he set it a week and a half down the road. That's a problem, because does that give Donald Trump another week and a half to violate the gag order before he is ever made to heel, before he is ever compelled, required to actually obey the law the way any of us would have to obey the law? So as of right now, I believe they're going to take this up on Thursday. I think it's the 23rd.
Yes.
And they will decide, one, whether Donald Trump violated the gag order. Spoiler alert, he did. And then two, far more importantly, what is the punishment? What is the sanction? Now, under New York law, there are two possible sanctions. One is a money fine. The problem here is the New York state law provides only for up to $1,000 for each violation of a court order. So what will that mean to Donald Trump? It will mean exactly nothing. Far more importantly, each violation of a court order, each violation of the gag order can subject the person to up to 30 days in jail. So what I suspect Judge Merchan will do is say, okay, you violated the gag order, let's just say 5 times. I think the prosecution presently said, at least as of this morning's court session, we see at least 3 violations of the gag order. So Judge Merchan could impose a $1,000 fine for each violation of the gag order. But far more importantly, he will have available as a lawful sanction under New York state law the ability to put him in jail for up to 30 days for each violation. Will it come to that? I have to believe, knowing who Donald Trump is, knowing his inability to control himself, knowing his recklessness, he could very well find himself in a New York jail cell during the pendency of this trial.
Glenn, do you think we'll see some type of hybrid approach where maybe Judge Merchan imposes the fine, which is basically tantamount to nothing, but will serve as a warning, and then say, if we see another violation, then I will avail myself of the opportunity to throw you in jail?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you've been in court before, Brian, because that's exactly what judges do. They do it incrementally. The first violation, they will ordinarily say, I'm giving you a warning. The second violation, they will say, you're fined $1,000, and let me put you on notice, Defendant Trump. If you violate again after this money fine has been imposed, you will be put in a jail cell. Do you understand? And Donald Trump will, mumble that he understands, kind of like he mumbled through some of his answers today in court. So judges love to do it incrementally. They like to give a defendant enough rope to sort of, I hate to use the phrase hang himself, but because appellate courts like to see that kind of incremental approach where you're giving a defendant every opportunity to comply with a court order. And if a defendant just steadfastly continues to violate court orders, that is when they can find themselves in a jail cell.
Glenn, just real quick on the fact that this is still that we still have a week before this hearing is actually going to be held to determine whether or not Trump will be held in contempt. Is that kind of Judge Merchan handing Trump more rope to use that phrase, to hang himself with by allowing him to commit more of these violations, which would only further hurt him when this hearing actually does happen?
You know, there's actually a specific reason that I think Judge Merchan put this off for a week or a little over a week now. The New York law, I think it's called Judiciary Law, Section 751, says if the contempt happens in the presence of the judge, in other words, if Donald Trump were to do something in court that would constitute a violation of not just the gag order, but of any court order, then the judge can summarily hold the person in court, fine them, and even order them into a jail cell. But that's only if the contempt happens in the judge's presence. This didn't. You know, even in this day and age, you could say, well, everything you post online kind of happens in everybody's presence. Yeah. The law is often very slow to catch up to the realities of the internet age. So the New York state law says if it doesn't happen in the court or in the judge's presence, then there has to be notice and there has to be an opportunity for the defendant to present a defense. I think what Judge Merchan decided is, listen, court is up and running Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. He could have tried to squeeze it in this Wednesday, but then the defense attorneys might have said, listen, the law says we get notice and an opportunity to defend and we can't be ready this Wednesday. So ultimately, Judge Merchan first set it for next Wednesday, a week and 2 days down the road. But then the prosecutor said, actually, Judge, can we do it Thursday morning at 9:30 instead of on that Wednesday? And here's why they said that. I know I've been in this situation. They've probably packed a bunch of witnesses in for witness prep on each Wednesday as the trial progresses. So they were probably counting on the judicial schedule as previously announced by Judge Merchan, giving them Wednesdays off. So 9:30 Thursday morning, a week from this coming Thursday, we will see what the hearing involves, and importantly, we will see what sanction Judge Merchan chooses to impose.
Two quick questions on that. How long will that hearing last, and how quickly will it take for Judge Merchan to impose his decision?
So, criminal contempt hearings are kind of a rare bird. They don't happen every day. So I am going to give you my best estimate that it will probably be a hearing that will take about an hour. It won't involve anything more than, the prosecution offering Donald Trump's posts or statements that he made that violated the gag order, and the defense trying to come up with some, explanation as to why, well, if it was a post, it wasn't really Donald Trump posting it. And how many of us are going to believe that?
Right.
Or if he was caught saying it at a rally, for example, or in one of the faux news station interviews, it's going to speak for itself. So I think the hearing can probably be accomplished in about an hour or so. I have a feeling it will be a decision that is rendered the minute the hearing concludes. So it will probably be contemporaneous with the hearing itself, unless there is actually some evidence that's been presented either by the prosecutors or the defense that the judge has to mull over, or he might have to go back and read up on some case law precedent if a legal issue is raised and contested by the parties. But I have a feeling he will rule either from the bench at the end of the hearing itself, or maybe later in the day, or at the latest, maybe the following day. All of this is my sort of best guess, knowing how judges ordinarily operate.
Okay, now on the gag order itself, the violations seem pretty cut and dry. Like, he was told not to attack witnesses, and he posted right there on Truth Social, attacking Michael Cohen, for example, who is a principal witness in this case. Is there any reason why Judge Merchan would opt not to side with the Manhattan DA here?
No, it really does undermine the rule of law and the confidence that the people have in the integrity of the proceedings. So I cannot envision Judge Merchan reading those posts that we all saw. We saw him attack Michael Cohen, a known witness, attack Stormy Daniels, a known witness. So I have to believe Judge Merchan will absolutely say that's a violation of the gag order. And really the only thing left is what is the appropriate sanction? And there has to be a sanction, because if there's no sanction, what are you doing? You are emboldening Donald Trump to, engage in even more reckless rhetoric and posts and speeches. All of it is endangering the witnesses and, I think, chilling the witnesses from being prepared to come forward, take the stand, and testify about what they know regarding the crimes of Donald Trump.
Glenn, Trump seems hell-bent on delaying everything, obviously. Is there a world in which he's basically daring Judge Merchan to jail him so that he can either challenge it in an appeals court or so that he could further frame himself as the victim here?
I don't think it would be an appealable decision if Judge Merchan found that he violated the court order and imposed a sanction that included some time in jail. I don't think that is an instantly appealable issue. What he could do is file a special kind of appeal called a writ for either a petition for a writ of mandamus or habeas corpus, deliver the body of the person who's being detained unlawfully. He can try that, but I don't know that it would be an appealable issue. But what I am confident of, Brian, is even if he had an appeal available to him, an instant appeal of that, it wouldn't stop the trial. It wouldn't even slow down the trial. His attorneys would have to multitask. The trial would continue because now really the only thing that would stop this trial from progressing is, if somehow the appellate court swooped in, came up with some, ruling that suggested he shouldn't be prosecuted at all, like an absolute presidential immunity issue, which is what brought Donald Trump's D.C. federal prosecution to a screeching halt. And the thing is, there are no issues left in the New York state prosecution. So let him appeal away, let him file for whatever extraordinary writs he might think apply in the event he's jailed as a punishment for his contempt of court. But he'll be fighting a losing battle, in my opinion.
Okay. And of course, we will stay on top of this as this issue in particular continues to progress. So keep an eye out for our coverage, not only of the entire trial, but especially on Thursday when this issue of Donald Trump being held in contempt actually gets litigated in the courtroom. So for those watching right now, if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe. Again, we will be doing exhaustive coverage of this trial. So the links to both of our channels are right here on the screen. Make sure to click subscribe on both of those links. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.